The Chargers address a major problem at the trade deadline, but was it the right way to address it? USC makes the college football playoff rankings, and LAFC apparently has their new head coach in mind. Good morning. I'm James, and this is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos Morning Report. It's November 5th, 2025. I am back on the road for work in mini scrotum for 2 more weeks. There is a big story in sports outside of LA. Victor Conte, the mastermind of the steroid era, died yesterday. There will not be a burial. Instead, Conte will be liquefied, spilled into a syringe, and injected into Barry Bonds' ass. R.I.P. Now, we added a lot of new subscribers to the Angeleno Familia yesterday. I know why. It's the Dodger fans, and I thank you for it, sincerely, because we're going to do our best to keep you informed. And if you like being in the know about LA sports, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notification bell. Hit that. It'll let you know when we drop an update. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. By all means, comment. We have a quick look at the scoreboard today because we have a lot of news to get to. Oklahoma City beat the Clippers 126-107. The Kings shut out Winnipeg 3-0. And meanwhile today, San Antonio's in town. They're going to play the Lakers at 7. So, what do you say we get to the news? When it comes to trade deadline deals, you don't want to overstate things, okay? We don't want to. Everybody else will, we don't. Because it was only just a couple of months ago when all the scribes got together and said, proclaimed even, the Dodgers were dead because Slime Diego won the major league trade deadline. And how'd that turn out, right? Look, for the NFL, though, we would all agree that the Chargers had to do something. There was a wildfire just raging across that offensive line. One injured guy after another. They did something. They did. You could even argue the Bolts are a better offensive team today than they were 24 hours ago. Good enough to make the playoffs? So before I start crapping on the moves, I want to tell you what the Chargers did and give you the upside. All right? They added a former 2022 first-round pick and offensive lineman Trevor Penning from New Orleans in exchange for a 7th-round pick in a future year. Remember, next year in the draft, the Chargers only have 5 picks. Those remain intact. Then the Bolts, who entered the day with only about $3 million in cap space, they turned around, they dropped cornerback Jasir Taylor on the Jets. Now, Penning played the last few years as the Saints' right tackle. They moved him to left guard this year. So, if you heard this trade and think to yourself, hey, the newbie is going to protect Justin Herbert's blind side, we don't know that yet. When Joe Alt went down with a right ankle sprain that ended his season Sunday, what was Jim Harbaugh's contingency plan? He moved guard Jamari Salyer to left tackle. So, does that mean now Salyer goes back to guard? We don't know. Why didn't they find somebody who was a tackle to play tackle, right? What could happen? There's so many options here. Say Mekhi Becton, who is starting to look like the playing board on the kids' game operation. Let's say he bucks the odds. Let's say he actually can, I don't know, play. And he returns to right guard. Who's to say that the Bolts like the idea of keeping Salyer at left tackle and then fortifying the interior offensive line, which is garbage? Yeah, Penning on the left side, Becton at the right. And maybe that gives the Bolts a way to run the ball between the tackles more efficiently. So, this isn't terrifyingly bad. This gives the Chargers options across the offensive line with the new guy. Now, having said that, here's some tough love if you're a Charger fan. Penning was on his way out with the Saints, guys. The Saints have 1 win, and they still thought he wasn't good enough for them. Okay? Capable offensive linemen are not easy to find during the season. And by the way, he's injury prone, which makes him a perfect fit to be a Charger already. So these deals do not equal a Super Bowl run. This is maybe about stealing enough wins to qualify for the playoffs. We mentioned yesterday that the Chargers have to play 500 ball the rest of the way to slide in. It's still a long shot. It looks a little bit more plausible now, still a long shot. And I might add that the defense became somewhat weaker with Taylor being sent to New York. I realize the Chargers play a lot of nickel coverage. I also realize that 3 of those guys are safeties. Taylor was the top reserve corner. Benjamin St. Just is the first guy off the bench now. That's a downgrade. Now, if you want to say, James, the Chargers won the Penning trade, I'll agree with you. They added a starting offensive lineman for next to nothing. But the best I can tell you is that's going to keep Herbert from leaving SoFi Stadium in a hearse. Maybe. Let me know what you think, of course, in the comments thread. A lot of Chargers to discuss. In the aftermath of USC's win in Nebraska, we were talking about how the Trojans can expect to be on the periphery of the college football playoff talk. Welcome to the periphery. The CFP released its first rankings. True to form, USC is number 19. When only 12 teams qualify, that's the periphery. Now, I don't think the Trojans have much to complain about. The upshot is that they pretty much control their own destiny. 4 games left. I'm not saying sweeping it is going to be easy. I wouldn't even wager on it. But one of those games is at Oregon. Knocking Oregon out is a path to get in. Sad news for the Trojans. Former linebacker Keith Browner died at the age of 63. He suffered a heart attack. Browner played pro football for 10 years, including with the then Los Angeles Raiders. And with the Chargers, of course, that was before the Bolts had the good sense to move to LA. He was a 2-time All Pac-10 selection. The Athletic is reporting that LAFC assistant Mark Dos Santos has emerged as the frontrunner to replace Steve Cherundolo as manager at the end of the MLS season. Cherundolo, during the year, said he was going to give up the post and return to Germany. Deutschland über alles, right? Now, the club remains mum on this report, and that makes sense because they don't want any distractions during this playoff run, right? I also realize if you have an ambitious club like the Black and Gold, the temptation is to go big game hunting. You know, go get some big coaching name from Europe or whatever. But honestly, I think this is the right call. Look, I realize that Galaxy fans watch this show, but I think we all have to agree LAFC has a very distinct culture, a distinct way of doing things that started with Bob Bradley back in 2018. Now, Bradley didn't get him a title, but when Bradley was let go, they brought in somebody who was familiar with the culture. Cherundolo was a rando coaching in the USL, but that USL team had LAFC players. So he knew what LAFC needed. He comes in, he took Bradley's concept, made one little tweak, and he won an MLS Cup. So with the exception of a brief stop in Vancouver, Dos Santos has been with LAFC since day one. Cherundolo kept the culture for Bradley. Dos Santos keeps the culture for Cherundolo. I'm a Galaxy guy, and it still makes sense to me. The bad news for UCLA basketball's season opening 80-74 win over Eastern Washington. The bad news is that it took just one game for Mount Cronin to erupt like the volcano in the old Dianetics commercials. Don't be within the blast radius when Mount Cronin goes boom. Look, the good news, however, is that unlike prior years, he didn't throw any of his own players under the bus. I mean, he threw himself under the bus. Then he got up, found a whip and scourged himself, which was kind of unsettling. It was like a mixture of the White Shadow and the Passion of the Cross. I don't know why it had to be that severe. But he told the LA Times, quote, "There's so many mistakes, I'd like to fire myself for our defense. I blame myself because I know that this was coming tonight and I couldn't stop it, so I failed miserably," unquote. This is still good. It's unsettling, but it's good. For a number of reasons if you're a Bruins fan. One, it doesn't change my thinking about what the Bruins are one iota. They knew they were facing Eastern Washington. Nobody knew that there was a school called Eastern Washington, so they overlooked them. They put in a half-ass effort. Two, I took Mick Cronin to task repeatedly for ripping his own players in public, and then, in the same breath, exonerating himself. In other words, he was blaming everybody else but himself. If you're going to lead men, you got to put yourself first and blame yourself first when things go wrong. So Cronin did the right thing, and he has all the time in the world to change whatever the hell's going on behind closed doors, which is what should happen. In the first of what we anticipate will be many moves to find a pulse in the Dodger bullpen next year, Matt Sauer was released Tuesday. He appeared in 10 regular season games in relief. His ERA was 6.37. Thanks for the memories. And I do believe that this is going to be the first of many moves that must be executed, because despite the caterwauling over the Dodgers during the World Series by all the crabby little wordsmiths at the LA Times, now Dylan Hernandez is begging, pleading for the franchise to keep itself intact like it's the 500th Eagles reunion tour. And I got to be honest with you, this bugs the hell out of me. It wasn't that long ago. It was for the last couple of weeks. All the scribes were trying so hard to get us to buy into their panic porn. Now that the Dodgers hoisted the trophy, all the scribes are like, never mind. Memory hole it. I'm going to hold up a neuralizer from Men in Black. Beep. You will not remember any of the things that I wrote for the last couple of weeks. Oh, please keep this team intact. And I hate to whip this dead horse, but we have to remember, because the scribes aren't going to remember. This team was this close to losing the World Series. I'm overjoyed they won it. That was a hell of a fight. If you want the three-peat, as I do, you have to get younger. You have to get younger. And that includes some very difficult questions. The Rams, by the way, were quiet at the NFL trade deadline. They did address an issue in a roundabout way. Sean McVay was complaining about the kicking game earlier this week and said all options were on the table. Now, for those of us watching, and for those of us, watching footballs hit one upright after another, and for Joshua Carty not even to have the decency to call bank shot, maybe we could be forgiven for thinking that dude was on the next Amtrak to the UFL training camp. Not so. The Rams signed a long snapper in Jake McQuaid. So, I don't know why. I'm not good enough to judge whether a long snap is good or not. He was with the team 4 years ago. And I have to tell you, though, on some level, maybe not football-oriented, I like the move. With a name like Jake McQuaid, you are a lady killer, my dude. How can you not with a name like, "Hi, ladies, I'm Jake McQuaid"? Look, I don't know why he even plays football. I'm assuming he spent the last 4 years working as a random villain number 2 in the latest Mission Impossible installment. Jake McQuaid. Be real with yourselves. You want that for a name. I love my dad dearly. My dad toiled all his life and did everything he could to give me a good name. My name sucks compared to Jake McQuaid. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread. Are you a Chargers fan? Are you optimistic or disappointed in the trade deadline deals? For that matter, USC at 19th in the college football rankings for the playoffs. Are you cool with it? And if you enjoyed this update, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We talk LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James, and we'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corte El Queso production. Take care.